And that kind of leads us on to the very last thing, is extreme longevity is not possible. There's people out there who believe that this was not going to happen, it's not going to work, and I think this is extremely foolish. It's obvious that people are living longer than they used to, and you can see it clearly. And since the 2000s, there are more 100-year-olds. I think it's like 40% more people living to be 100 than there was in the early 2000s. Now there is. So people are clearly living very, very long lives, and they're living longer and longer. And it's just going to keep continuing, I feel like. Eventually, there's obviously going to be diminishing returns, I think. But I feel like even with those diminishing returns, maybe we could overcome that and still extend life further. So a good example of things that are thought to be impossible and are labeled proven to be possible is flight. So in 1903 was the first flight, and in 1969 was the moon landing. So it took 66 years from the first flight to the moon landing. And a change in something so significant, that kind of really shows how much we can accomplish over such a short period of time. And I think longevity will be the exact same thing, the exact same way. As people will start to realize as we make more progress that, oh yeah, this is something that we can happen, and this is something that can be done. Because there's people, even like a couple years before we were going to the moon, there's articles published, oh, we can never go to the moon, it's impossible, you know? And it was obviously it's something that we can't do, and we can go even further than that. So I think the same could be said about longevity research.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing to overcome when talking to people about it who aren't in, is even believing it's possible to do, because they don't see the technology, they don't see people living to be 200 yet. It's easy to dismiss it as a fantasy, a dream, something that's never going to happen in their lifetimes. Why should they care, all this stuff? But that's just like a self-manifesting thing. If nobody cares about it, because nobody thinks it's possible, it's never going to happen. That's why we need more people to care about it. And I really hope at some point we're able to come up with a playbook, and maybe the foundations have this too, but just a way to, and we're kind of going through this by refuting and looking at, some of the trade-offs and stuff of some of the pushbacks against longevity and all these things too. But just a playbook of, how to get people past that first step, how to get them, once you get them past, they actually believe it's possible, then get them to understand, like, what are the opportunities with it? Like, what are the possibilities? How long can they live until? What is the timeline they should expect the technology to be available? What can they do to help progress that timeline? Things like that. Maybe at some point we can come up with a playbook of like, okay, when you how to talk to people about longevity, and you just go through and just like how to peel back the onion, and really, if you're really going to spend time with someone, especially if they're a wealthy person who's looking to donate to a new foundation or something, how do you peel back that onion and actually show them that this is something worth investing into, and you're helping humanity by doing it? I think that's be really something important to do as well.
Yeah, and Richard really seemed to believe that rejuvenation is a far better term than longevity. So I think that's probably a good place to start when talking to new people, is using that terminology instead. But
how can we steal it back from the makeup people? Because when I think of rejuvenation, I think of like L'Oreal makeup, all that stuff.
Yeah,
I think the branding aspect, maybe some sort of like prefix or superset of rejuvenation, but definitely I like that context of speaking it in that way. That makes sense to a lot more people too.
Yeah.
Maybe because they hear that in the makeup, the personal care space, and they believe maybe, oh, this is something more familiar. I can see that.
Yeah, and another example of kind of the mental barrier that we have with longevity and people thinking that it's not possible is the 4-minute mile is something that used to be thought to be impossible. And no one was breaking a mile faster than 4 minutes until eventually someone did. They barely passed 4 minutes. It was like 3 minutes and 3:59 seconds, something like that. And then after this person beat a 4-minute mile, there was all of a sudden a bunch of other records of people passing a 4-minute mile. So something that used to be thought impossible, it wasn't physically impossible, but it's more of a mental barrier, because after this one person completed it, a bunch of other people did the same record. So I think if people mentally start to realize that this is something that we can work forward to, better and faster progress could be made by that way as well.
Definitely. Yeah, I think some people question, oh, why do we need sports? Why do we need to work on, why do we need to go to Mars? Why do we need to do all these things that are, they seem to be just these novelties or just these extracurricular stuff. But, going to the moon, the moon, all these things, they create these, they're inspiring. They inspire people to go beyond what they currently think is possible and to believe there's something better out there. And what better thing can you believe in than living a longer, healthier lifespan that's possible for you, or if not you, your kids and your people that come after you. That's something to really aspire to, if not directly fund. If you're going to do something, you believe in doing something valuable in your life, you believe in something outside of yourself, and you want to contribute back to humanity, leave the place a little bit better than you found it. Rejuvenation and longevity. I mean, that's the space to be in the next few decades.
Yeah, I totally agree. And so just real quick, one last thing that I wanted to bring up is that people saying it's not possible is I wanted to play this video that I have found. So I'm not sure, you might not be able to hear the audio, but the people watching the video will be able to hear the audio, okay? But these are mice that age rapidly. They only live to be about 7 or 8 months. And in this video, they're showing the first group of mice who did not have any modifications done. They're using CRISPR, which is a gene editing software or technology. And they make modifications to these other mice, and they're able to live significantly longer. So this is the original group of mice that live to be about 7 months old. And these ones are already about 7 months, so they're about to die from old age.
So let me pick them up.
And you can see in this video that it's clearly a very, very low energy mouse, and it's very decrepit, and it's obviously suffering from aging significantly. So this would just be your standard mouse that they would have. This is how their normal life would be.
They don't want to move around too much. They either have very shallow, low breathing, or they have very rapid breathing. He's very attenuated.
And then in this other video, these are the same group of mice. These are actually 2 months older than that one is. And you can see they are moving around perfectly, and they're actually playing, and they're running, and they look very, very healthy. And this was accomplished just by using CRISPR and making this very simple modification to their genes. So I think to be able to see that something like this is possible, this is not something that has been done before. This is actually very recent. So to see that something like this is possible in live mice could really show what could be possible in the future to humans. So
that's the end game, man. That's the end game. Being able to take this research that we see is successful in other species and other living things, and figuring out how to make those therapies available for humans. Richard says all the time, he believes human consciousness is the most valuable thing on Earth. If you agree, then we should be doing everything we can to capture it and make sure it's able to live on much longer than what we're doing now.
Yeah, totally.